This is ET. Information in this story. Well, it comes from various newspapers of the 1920s, and in particular from two excellent books. This one here, A Flame of Pure Fire, it's by Roger Kahn. And this one here, Jack Dempsey, The Manasseh Mauler by Randy Roberts. This here is Jess Willard, also known as the Potawatomi Giant, heavyweight champion of the world from April of 1915, when he took the title from Jack Johnson. Willard reigned until July 4, Independence Day in the U.S. of 1919. That was the day Willard almost died at the hands of Jack Dempsey. And this is Jack Dempsey, heavyweight champion from, Independence Day, 1919 to September of 1927. This video contains details you may not know about, including an allegation that Jack Dempsey's hands were bound with plaster of Paris tape. And also there are going to be facts about Jess Willard that will prove he was far more dangerous than boxing pundits today know. Here are some facts about Jess Willard. He came late to boxing. Willard was 28 years old. He was reported to be enormously strong at 6 feet 6 inches, 245 pounds. He had an 83-plus reach. He could lift 500-pound hay bales on his Kansas farm. Now, this is different than using a barbell doing a deadlift. Jess Willard killed a fighter, a heavyweight, Bull Young. Willard drove Young's jaw into his brain with an uppercut. An interesting sidebar here, Young had promised his father that if he lost, he would quit boxing and return home. Well, Bull Young did return home, only it was in a coffin. On April 5 of 1915, Willard took Jack Johnson's heavyweight title. That was in Havana, Cuba, 26th round. Now, some maintain Johnson laid down just to collect the big money, but the knockout appeared then and appears today to be very legitimate. If you've ever watched the whole fight, you'll find to be true what Johnson himself said was true long after the fight, that the Potawatomi Giant was simply too big. But Willard's size was made for Jack Dempsey, who would use his speed, his dexterity, his timing, and hunger, in particular hunger, against the slower and lumbering Jess Willard. All of this works to the advantage of Jack Dempsey, the challenger. Although Jack's father, after visiting Willard's training camp, told reporters that the champion Willard was too big and strong for his own son, Jack Dempsey. Well, the fight, many of you have heard about it, read about it, maybe seen the film, took place under a blazing hot sun outside of Toledo, Ohio, one of the few states that had not outlawed prize fighting. In the weeks prior to the fight, men and women, yes, women, arrived in great numbers, including shysters, hustlers, former and active boxers, actors and actresses. Ethel Barrymore of the famous acting family was there. They showed up in such numbers that the population of the quiet staid town of Toledo doubled. Included among the crowd and was the famous, infamous, and very unhygienic Battling Nelson. He was very well known at the time. He had 2 knockout victories over the great Joe Gans. Well, he was down on his luck at the time, and Dempsey and his manager Jack Kearns allowed Battling Nelson to stay at Dempsey's training camp. Well, one evening, he takes advantage of that hospitality. Now remember, this guy has not bathed in probably a year. He went out and did take a bath. He took that bath in a concessionaire's huge tub of lemonade and ice. Now, that was later served to patrons who were themselves cooking under the relentless July heat. While Willard, whose only fear appeared to be killing Dempsey in the ring, trained half-heartedly. Dempsey himself was all business. The challenger was roughing up all of his sparring partners, and he was as fit as he had ever been before. Well, the fight itself, the first minute, well, they're feeling each other out. Both are very cautious. Dempsey bobbing and weaving, Willard watching. Jack suddenly throws a five-punch combination to Willard's body, and then a left hook to the right side of the champion's face. And Willard drops to the canvas. Jack, as Willard stood up, was right on him. There was no mandatory going to a neutral corner back then. Jack is striking the champion's head. Willard, pinned against the ropes, he's helpless, goes down for a second time. He stands with the aid of ropes and then turns from Jack. Jack is hitting him from behind. Again, that's legal, with more punches. And a left hook sends Willard to the canvas. Willard's back on his feet, again attacked from the rear, knocked across the ring. It's at this point, by the way, a little footnote, that Ethel Barrymore almost got sick to her stomach. And she said later after the fight, "I'll never attend one of these again." Anyway, and Willard's being knocked across the ring, hit from every conceivable angle. Again, he grabs the ropes. Dempsey's barraging the right side of his face. Willard is again on the canvas. He pulls himself upright using the ropes. Dempsey is punching Willard in the face, the kidneys. He gets another knockdown. The referee is counting, but at this point, a whistle sounds. They did not use a bell. Now, nobody hears it except, well, Jack Dempsey's manager, Doc Kearns. And it's very important to Kearns that nobody else heard it. Because days before, Dempsey's manager, Jack Kearns, bet $10,000 at 10-1 odds that his boy, Jack Dempsey, would KO Willard in the first round. So Kearns jumps into the ring. He steers Jack Dempsey, his fighter, from the ring. Dempsey, almost too late, realizes that the fight is not over. In other words, the man who blew the whistle told the referee it's not over. He was saved by the bell. And Dempsey returns to the ring just in time for 2 more rounds. Now, these are pretty slow, no knockdowns, but it was very apparent Willard was destroyed. Cuts above and below both eyes. He had 6 teeth knocked out. His jaw is broken. If you see the right side of his face, it looked like he was run over by a truck. One person described it this way: Willard's face looks like a peach after you drop it onto the concrete. Jack Dempsey answered the whistle for the 4th round, but Willard simply sat in the corner. And Jack Dempsey is now the new world heavyweight champion. But there remained some dispute regarding Jack's gloves. Well, at least what's underneath the gloves. One of Jack Kearns' sons, remember Kearns is Dempsey's manager at the time, he said that his father told him, the son, that he, Kearns, put plaster of Paris on Jack Dempsey's bandages to guarantee that first round knockout so that he, Kearns, would win $100,000. But Jimmy DeForest, who himself taped Jack Dempsey's hands, said that he used a hard but legal adhesive. And boxing experts, including Nat Fleischer and Nat Lubay, discount the story for several reasons. They do say that tape was watered, but almost everybody watered the tapes at the time. And keep in mind that Kearns, at that time, Dempsey's friend and manager, later sued Jack Dempsey. So it's understandable how he would make that story up. The fact is that Dempsey's power and the 5-ounce gloves were the decisive factor. Oh, one more thing. The morning following the fight, Jack Dempsey, staying at a Toledo hotel, woke up. He immediately went down and outside, and there was a boy peddling a local newspaper. And Dempsey says, "Hey, who won the fight, son?" The newsboy says, "Hey, aren't you Jack Dempsey?" And Dempsey says, "Yeah." "Well, you did, you big jerk. Look at the paper." Well, that's it. Type in your comments below. Subscribe if you have not done so. You see the bell icon. If you tap that, you'll be notified when ET puts up another video. And you see that thumbs up icon? Tap that. Thank you.